Hello, everyone. Day 10. It's 10% done. Welcome to Loose and Scope and More today on 100 Days of Code with Leon Anderson. Leon, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I don't know if my eyes are getting worse because of coding or if I have something weird with my eyes, but maybe I need some glasses soon. But I don't care. I have to code anyway. So
Small price to pay.
exactly. And yeah, I had, I would say, 3 to 3.5 hours of coding today. Had some other things in between, some work stuff, some extra hours. But yeah, 3.5 hours is pretty good. Could immerse myself quite well. I started with, where is it? The topic of the logical OR. So the two lines, logical not, case, and then I went into arrays. Accessing arrays, changing arrays, a little excursion, just very shortly, into concat. Reverse includes index of, slice and splice, and what was that? Reference types and equality testing. Not sure about that. What that was? I'm referencing the sections in the
Equality,
course.
maybe it was again something with like multiple equal signs.
Yes, like some things about the dynamics of, I guess, arrays versus something else that maybe, I don't know. Maybe I can check it very quick. What was that?
Well, I love how I remember, I think 1 or 2 days ago, I used slice or splice in an example, and you were like, oh, I didn't see that yet. And now you've seen these array methods. I really like it.
Yes. Oh yeah,
So,
exactly. So basic, just strings, how the difference in dynamics between equaling strings within and without of arrays. I think that was.
got it. That's awesome. That's already so much today that you covered.
Yeah, I mean, there's even more. That I was just not sure about what that was. Then the different, what was it? Arrays and consts. Oh yeah, that before knowing arrays, const was always unchangeable, but if a const is pointing towards an array, it's only constant that it's pointing to this bracket, but you can still change what's in the bracket. So you can still change the contents of that.
Did you understand why that is? Did you go into detail there?
Well, he basically said that the equal sign is like a pointer, like an arrow that points to something, to an object, and if you define a const, or if you let a const point towards a single word, or I think to a string, or to a number. What is it? Strings and numbers, or strings and, I don't know, or to variables as well. Numbers are strings as well. No, you have strings and you have numbers, and you can have numbers in strings, right?
They're even more primitive, but continue
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I is correct.
So if you let a const point towards like individual objects, then it's fixated on the object. But if you point it to an array, you can still change what's in the array, because the array is a container, basically. That's how I understood it. Or
yes, that is basically correct. So the equal sign in JavaScript, basically there's something in programming called by reference. And it's only the thing that is constant when using const is the reference to the value that is saved in the variable. So that means all primitive data types. You cannot change them. Yeah, primitive data types are string, number, boolean, undefined, null, and then there's begin and there's symbol. But these two, don't worry. These you'll probably learn so if you haven't known them. I know you know boolean.
Yeah, we've covered those, but I didn't think of them yet.
Yeah, and then these terms are too important right now. And then there are composite data types. Composite because they're a composition of all of these other data types, right? And the first composite data type that you are learning about now are arrays. And there's another important one, object, and later there's stuff like maps and sets. But yeah, that's just spoiler. Let's focus on the stuff that you got so far. But yeah, you understood it. So basically, for the composite data types, because the reference to the array is the same, that doesn't mean that then the stuff in the array couldn't change, or the stuff in the object, or the stuff in the map. So only the reference to the root is basically, this is not technical root, it's full technical term, doesn't need describing it, but the reference to the value is has to be the same, and that means you cannot change any of the primitives, but you can change any composite data type, the contents inside of the composite data type.
Yes, exactly. Then we looked at multi-dimensional arrays. So like the different, that you can store all kinds of different primitives inside of arrays, or the different kinds of data inside of an array, and that you can also put arrays into arrays, and then objects later, and all the other stuff. Or I don't know if all the other stuff, or many of the other stuff. So that's basically nested arrays, if you put an array into an array. Then we went into object literals. What was that again? I think object literals was there's like, when I see the like there's so many small concepts and functions that now when I see the name, I'm not 100% sure what it is, but let me click on it and click through the video. Object literals. Oh yeah, got it. It's basically an array where you have where you link strings to other strings. So but the strings are the first strings. It's always string and then colon and then string, but the first, like the string before the colon, you don't put into how's it called, into not parentheses, into into quotes,
quotation marks.
Yeah, exactly. You don't put them into quotation marks, but they are technically still strings, but they don't get seen this way. They don't get displayed this way, and they don't get treated this way for this special case of objects. I'm seeing that you put the 10x def in quotation marks.
Yes.
Does that have a reason?
I wanted to finish your thoughts. So if you want to finish your thought, do it, but I can. So just to go into that maybe because you're thinking about it now. So I wanted to show where like as you said, right, all of these are strings, but JavaScript can remove the quotes when there is nothing that would break up the syntax so that the JavaScript engine would no longer understand it. So basically, if I put a dash here, it no longer understands it because dash is a minus sign. So you technically put an operator here. So this is not valid. So if you want to have a key for now, these are called keys and these are called values.
Keys.
So if you want to have a key that uses something that would be valid JavaScript syntax, except for stuff like const in it, like you can have something here named const and that's fine. But it's not fine if you use like an operator, like for example the percent sign or something. Like when JavaScript is crying about it, if you want to have something like that, then you need to put it in parentheses so it's still clear that it is a key. Generally, you might even want to avoid it, right? And then instead of using this right here, which is called kebab case, you probably would rather use like snake case and do it like this.
Is snake case okay as well, or like snake case is with lower bars, like with the, isn't it?
Snake case is here, exactly. So snake case looks like this, right?
But you have to put it in quotes as well?
No, you don't.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah, that's a good extra note that wasn't covered in the course. Like it. Yeah. Where are we? Yeah, creating these object literals. I don't know what the literals are exactly. I know that it's an object, but what's the literal? Is the whole thing an object literal, and there are different objects as well than this, or what is the object? What is the literal?
Well, literal is just the way that we create the object here, right? Because there are different other ways to create an object. So, for example, there's something called JSON.parse that can parse, like you will learn about JSON soon. But okay, let's do this. So we have this object right here, and we defined it using a literal, right? But what we can also do is we can say object, I don't know, Hans is equal to Brian, right? So technically, this is not an object literal. So every property that gets set during the instantiation of the object, that is what it means by object literal, because you're basically literally describing the object.
Okay, I don't understand the object Hans Brian thing, but I.
So
like,
have you referenced the values of an object yet? Have you come across that yet?
It looks a little bit familiar, but I'm not 100% sure. Is it? Oh yeah, got it. It's
we can access
when
properties, right?
when you're pulling out data out of the object.
Yeah, well, you're not putting it out, right? It's still there, but you're looking inside of it. Exactly. You want to know what's inside. And using the object literal syntax, this right here, during the creation of the object, we assign all the values, but we can also not do that. We can comment this all out, and we can set values like this. And now object.true, let's mark it here in our console so we clearly see where it is. Object true. Now that we are no longer assigning true as an object literal during the creation of the object, we get undefined here, right, in the output. But if we were to look up Hans, now we still get Brian because we assign the value to Hans after the fact. We can also do it like this. Object dot, let's pick another German name, Franz is equal to Luke. And then we can check what's in there, and we can check what's in forms. And yeah, we see it's Luke, right? And if we create the literal again, then also defined again.
And okay, got it. And with the object square brackets Hans equal Brian, is this both a way to get data out of an object and to write it into? Is it, or?
Yes, exactly. So what we can also do here is, instead of doing this, we could do this object ads. So we can read the data from it, as you can see here, as well as assign data. So this is just how you basically look up the object property, and this one right here is called computed object properties. And these are those normal object properties. So why are these called computed? Because technically, it's getting a little complicated, right? But we could say const name equals to Hans, and then we can put the name here like this, and we can put the name here like this, and we can put the name here like this, and it still all works, right? And if I change this to maybe what's a different German name, I don't know, maybe German names, let's take Parisian name, let's take yeah, T, and we still get the correct thing here because we're still referencing the correct name, right? So we're computing the name of the key basically. But you will come across this. I will teach you this in the course. This is just a spoiler for you.
Got it. Okay. I'm not 100% sure if I remember correct how to, like, if is there a difference between in the syntax between getting and writing? You know what I mean?
What do you mean by that? No, I didn't understand
Like
the question.
accessing the data out of an object versus writing into. Is it the same syntax, or is there a difference in it?
Well, it's same as in the way that you tell what property you want to assign to and what you want to get, like look into basically, is the same, right? As you can see here, we literally write the same code here. However, for assigning a value, we put an equal sign to the right of it and then tell it what value we want to write into it, right? So is this the same as this? I would say no, because we have this additional part right here, right? So I would technically answer with no, it's different.
Okay,
because we have to specify like this how to assign the data or what did it assign.
Okay, so if we override it, then we have to assign something with an equal sign.
Yes, if you want to put something in, you put an equal sign to the right of it, and then you say what should go into it.
Okay, yeah, got it. So if you just want to access it, then you just write it into the console log thing without any. But I don't understand why you write it twice.
So because this is how console log works.
This is the string, and this is the result.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
So these are the two things here in the console.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, and exactly, modifying objects and then nesting arrays and objects. Yeah, I don't remember the exact case what was the case where I nested an arrays and objects. Oh yeah, like basically within an array you can have an object literal. Like, yeah, that's I think basically all that we've seen.
Yeah.
Let me. All right. Are there any more important things inside? Yeah. In this section, we basically just did some inspection of some Reddit code. As an example, and then I went into loops. The for loop and infinite loops, looping over arrays, and nested loops. The for loop is basically you have the start, then you have the starting index, then you have the end index, and then you have the increments. And then you can assign what happens on each step of the increments. You could basically, one example that we used all the time was to console log print the content of each step with the index beforehand, for example. And inside of that, you can use methods like .length to make sure that it's so you don't have to count all the way down to know which index it is. And you can just be sure that it ends at the end of the array. And yeah, nested loops are basically, if you want, we basically went through one example. I don't know if there are different use cases as well, but if you have an array that has multiple lines or multiple rows, and if you would just use a for loop without nesting, you would only print out each row as a whole. So you would have 3 printouts. But if you want to print out all of the sub data, so in this case that you can see on the screen, where the names of the that are inside of the rows, if you want to print out each one of them, then you have to define a second index. One thing you can do is use, for example, j instead of I. And you also have to define the const row to be the indexes of the array. So you can refer to that, to each of so you can refer to each of the rows. And then you have to use the row const as the end of a second for loop that you put inside of the first for loop. So the second for loop knows that it starts at 0, but is inside of the rows and not inside of the arrays. So I'm wondering, though, now that I'm reflecting on it, how does the second loop know that it's referring to inside of the row at the start of like, is it okay if it's just referenced once, because the reference is only at the second input, the end input of the second loop? You know what I mean? Why don't I have to, for example, I could write let j equal row square brackets 0, for example, in parentheses. Is that
Yes.
would that be possible as well?
No, that would be gibberish. So let's look into this deeply, right? So let's first understand what's going on in here, and then you also send me a question async that we can address afterwards. But let's understand this code first in depth, right? So first, this let right here, it's important to understand, is literally the same let that you have when you say let's something like let foo equals to 0 here, right? It's the same let. You could also put a const here. You could also put a var here, right? But there are different reasons why let is the best case here.
So
you cannot change the const if it's a primitive.
It's not necessarily the start of the loop, but it's the definition of the variable that is used for the range of the loop.
This is just a shorthand syntax, which basically says, here we define some variables. Here we have a condition that is being checked after each iteration to see if it's true. And as soon as it's true, as long as it's true, we keep doing the loop. But as soon as it's false, we stop the loop. And here is some code that we execute after, at the end of each loop, at the end of each iteration. That is all that we're doing here. We could also define another variable here and be like, I don't know, k equals to 10, right? That still works.
But if we don't use k in the rest of the loop, then it's useless information, right? Or
yeah, I mean it's useless in 99.999% that you even know this. But I'm teaching you this and I'm showing you this just so you understand the general structure of a for loop better, what's happening after each of these 3 little building blocks here. But almost like literally every for loop that you're coming across probably after today is always going to look somewhat like this. Is that clear so far?
Okay, yeah, no. I was waiting if you would keep on typing something else, but okay, now I got it. Yeah.
So basically, I'm going to continue, but first I'm to check if we're on the same page so far.
Yes.
Sweet. Okay, cool. So now let's understand what is happening here, right? And by just printing out I and seeing what happens. So this loop is executing 3 times. Because in the first time I have 0, second time I have 1, third time I have 2. Do you know why that is?
Because it's the index of the, or the is it called index of each of the row of the seating chart const array.
Yes. Well, how could I change the seating chart if I wanted I to go to 3? How would I have to change the seating chart?
You would have to add a third row into it, a fourth row into it.
Exactly. Yeah. So just one minor thing. I'm being super pedantic here, but just to make it clear, a row is basically, like calling it a row is basically a simplification, because we tend to think about these nested arrays as tables or matrices. And when we do that, we usually think of columns and rows, right? But technically, this is just a normal array. So if you want to be super pedantic about it and super specific, then the seating chart array, has 3 elements. And each of the elements happens to be another array, right? Good. Okay, we understand where the I came from. We understood why it goes to 3, right? Because there are 3 elements in the array.
Got it.
And the length of the array is 3 because it had 3 elements. So in the first iteration, I have 0, and then we check if it's less than 3, that is true. So we increment it. Then I have 1, right? Still less than 3. We increment it. I have 2, still less than 3. So we increment it. And then I have 3. It's no longer less than 3. So the loop stops. Cool. So far, so good. So now let's check what happens with the second for loop. So we get let j equals 0, and we say j is less than what? I don't know. Maybe less than 10. I don't know. Let's just think about it a little later, and we increment j. Cool. So thank you. Now, what we're doing here is in the code that we're questioning about, we said, hey, as long as j is less than the row length, right? So we can imitate this by basically saying j should be less than the length of each of the elements here. What is how do we get the element of each iteration? We can say const current element is equal to seating chart of I, because we know that when I is 0, then the first element is this. When I is 1, the second element basically is this. And then when I is 2, the third element is this.
Yes.
So that is how we can fix the element here. So if we want to then iterate through this array, we can say j is less than current element dot length. And that is basically what we're printing out here. And then we say console.log of in your example, we say current element j, right? But if we want to make it a little bit more descriptive, we could say current element of the element of the inner array, maybe of the inner array, and that is current element j, right? Or what we could also say, we could say seating chart ij, right? Because we're in the ith element of
Yes.
the seating chart, and then we're in the jth element of that inner element. And then we just log out that. Does that clarify the question?
Yes. So is it possible if all the elements would have the same amount of strings inside? Would it possible to just put j smaller than 3 in this case? Would it print out the same?
Yeah, exactly. Because
Okay.
Current element dot length. Let's look at what current element dot length is. Current element dot length. Current element. Wait, before we do that, I'm gonna ask you, what do you expect the output will be if we get rid of this for loop and we just comment in this console log? What do you think the output will be?
Current element length, current element. Why is it what? I don't understand why there's current element and then current element without dot length. Okay.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I would say it prints out 2, 3, 3. Probably.
2, 3, 3. How do you get there?
Because the first element goes up to 2, second to 3, and third also to 3.
That is the indexes, right? What does dot length give you?
How many indexes there are?
Yes. And how many indexes are there for the first element, for the first array?
Isn't it always counted in indexes? Isn't it always counting with 0, or is it starting from 1 now?
Well, you've answered the question correctly in the sense that you said, okay, dot length gives us how many indices there are, right? Because in truth, like the more precise answer is, dot length gives you how many elements there are in the array.
Okay, I thought length would give us just the number of the indices. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so then
That's
it's
the same.
3, 4, 4. Then it's 3, 4, 4.
Yes, exactly. 3, 4, 4, exactly. 3, 4, 4. Perfect.
Nice. So so then instead of current element dot length in the nested loop, I could put in j smaller than 4. If the first element would have four sub-elements as
Yes.
well, right? Okay.
Yes, if they have the same length, then you can just hard code it to 4. If each element has 4 elements too.
Okay, so the nested loop knows that it has to go inside of the elements just because it's inside of the loop, just because it's nested, not because there's a current element link or a const inside of it, right?
So the nested loop knows how many elements the inner element basically has, because we capture it here, right? And then we can reference its length. We could also do it like this. We could also say seating chart I dot length like this. That still works.
Dot I slash dot square I square J, or only square
Well,
I?
no, here J is not even defined, right? I mean, it is defined, we use it here, but here we are referencing the current element, the inner element.
What? Okay, but wait, I think there are too many changes at once. What happened? So seating chart 1, seating chart dot length, seating chart y, console log. What? Okay.
I'm gonna let you think and tell me if you're ready, and then we can go through.
Isn't that a completely different output?
No, we're still putting out every name once.
But
right?
But why is console log I like that's is that putting out the name as well?
We're logging out IJ, right? IJ.
Yeah, but before that there's console log I.
That is just to count the rows. Like we can get.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it doesn't
Yeah,
change the
okay.
behavior, right?
Okay, I was confused by what that means. I tried to get what you wanted to show me from the top. So
Got it.
okay.
No, that was just to count. Okay, keep track of the rows for you, or the elements of the outer array.
Got it. Okay, and okay, for let J smaller than seating chart. But seating chart square I is just isn't that maximum 2? Because there are 3 elements and I is the index of. Wait,
So
what?
we just established,
no.
right, that length gives us how many elements there are in the thing that we're referencing, right? And seating chart, so in the first iteration, I is 0. So seating chart 0 is this array right here. And the length of this array is 3. So then we go in here and J is 0, and then we log out seating chart I
Okay.
which is
I didn't
0,
see.
0.
I didn't see that
Which
you
is
put
this.
a dot length behind the seating chart I. I didn't see that one. Now I got it.
Wasn't visible.
I was starting like, yeah. I didn't go behind that because I was trying to understand the first part, but I didn't see the context of it. Yeah, now I got
Always
it.
read the full line.
Okay, that's never heard that. Always read the full line. That's good to know. Nice. Okay, yeah, that makes sense because the length it's the length of the element. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Right. And now we can slowly come to the main question that you asked, which was translated into English. So we can this a little bit long. Let's do it like this. Or maybe instead of doing like this, we can do.
I can explain it probably as well.
You want to explain it?
Yeah, let me try. And so there is the we don't have it inside of it at the moment. The line that it was referring to. So now the line const row equals seating chart I. I was asking if this row, so row line 64, if that line could be outside of the for loop, like before that, for example, in line 62, because I thought that if you define a const at the like somewhere in some line above, could be even line 1 maybe, then for the whole, I thought that for the whole script or for the whole document, I don't know if it's script or document, but then this const is defined, and then every use case can refer to that const. And I was not sure why it's inside of the loop, because in the training videos, which were just in the console all the time, the const row, the consts could be like far away already, like, and we could still refer to it. So yeah, that does it make sense how I said it?
Yes. So let's look into this, right? So we cannot put the const, if we use const, we cannot put this outside because several reasons. So when we have a const variable outside of the for loop, it cannot change again, right? If you say const, as it's a primitive, right? So if you say const, I don't know, const example is equal to example, this cannot change. This cannot be changed anymore because it's const now. So if we would try to say example equals to seating chart I, we would get an error because we are not allowed to reassign this. Make sense so far?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So then the next thing I think that's a little bit confusing is now we put a const thing here, which technically means we're not allowed to change it, right? But evidently this changes because for I equals 0, this is this element. Then for I equals 1, this is this element. And then for I equals 2, it is this element. And the reason for that is that each iteration has its own scope. So let me show that first in terms of function. So we can say function first scope equals to this, and then function second scope equals to this. And if we have a variable here const my name is equal to 4, and then we say const my name equals to 5, and const my name equals to 6. Now we have the variable my name 3 times here, right? So if we say console.log my name in this function, and we say console.log my name in this function, and we say console.log console.log. Let's have this. Let's do another function. Hold on, let's lift it here. Console.log my name, right? So and let's comment this out because otherwise our console is going to be spammed. And let's refresh this. So we just get my name 4. Makes sense because we're not executing any of the functions yet. So then say first.
I don't know what a function is yet. I don't know how functions work yet. That's next chapter.
That's good to know. Well, I don't want to explain functions here. Okay, let's explain it differently then. Let's bring this up maybe tomorrow or whenever you go to functions. Okay, let's do it more simple then. Basically, scope means you can just create scope out of nothing in JavaScript. You can just have brackets and this is scope now. And you can say const my name to 4, and you can have another scope here, const my name equals to 3. And this scope is literally also the same scope that we are creating here, just that this scope here from this curly bracket is changed by this for loop thing. By the way, creating scope like this, just out of the wild, most senior developers don't even know that that's possible. Like you would be surprised how many people who got very high paying jobs don't know that this is a thing in JavaScript.
Okay.
But the main gist here is that even though, because this is its own scope and this is its own scope, both can declare their own my name variable, right? If we put another my name variable here, my name equals to 5, and boom, select our identifier, my name has already been declared. We are not allowed to redeclare it, right? Similar, like when if we would try to redeclare the example here, or the example that also, boom, blows up, right? So basically, that means that each of the iterations gets brand new scope. So in other words, once we are running through this and we are arriving here, right, let's say here 0, and then we run through this 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, right? And now we get at the end here and it is increasing, I is increasing. Now we assign a new role. We create a new role variable and a new scope. And that's why we can use const here and not outside. Does it make sense so far? And does also make sense why this const is not setting this for all of eternity, basically?
I did understand some of the dynamics, but I still don't understand like isn't if there is no let's say inside of this for loop there is no const that is defining seating chart. No, that's wait a second, that is. But why can the for loop reference the const seating chart above? Why is that possible?
Because scope can always reference anything defined outside of it, but not the other way around. So while this scope here can reference everything inside of it and outside of it, we cannot reach from the outside into the scope. We cannot say what is row here. Like we could define another row here, and it's fine because the outside scope here does not know about this row.
What is outside scope? I don't. Outer or outside? Okay. I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. I was talking to myself. Outside and outer scope, outside scope, it's basically interchangeable. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So let's pretend this right here is your program, right? So this is your program. So this scope has everything in your program, right? And now inside of your program, we do something that creates a new scope, right? So this could be, for example, this could be a function. This could be the scope brackets that I've shown you. It could also just be like a loop, exactly, right? Anything that creates scope, right here. So this is the inner scope or inside scope, right? And here we create a variable cons row equals 5. And now this inner scope is allowed, to reference anything in its outside scope. So this can say cons equals to row of 6.
Okay. Can you go to the code before? I think I know what you mean. So seating chart dot I. No, but no, I don't get it.
Okay, no worries. So we will keep going in this example.
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
going to extend this example to make it understandable.
Yes.
So basically, this inner scope can reference anything outside of it, but the outer scope cannot reference anything outside of the inner scope. So I cannot say cons bar equals to foo plus, I don't know, 11. I don't even know where we're at yet. 6 plus 5, 11. So this is finished. This does not work. This is blowing up.
Yes. I understand that. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's take this. Copy, paste. Right. And now we change this. This is now seating chart. And it's some kind of array. So inside of here, we can say row equals to seating chart, right? And then whatever, right? We might do some more here. This, right? But we cannot say here row is equal to seating chart because the outside scope does not know what is inside here.
But seating chart is already outside.
Yes, sorry. I'm an idiot. Cons bar equals to row.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand that. Yes, that's understandable. But in our case, seating chart is already outside.
Yeah, that's exactly the same. Seating chart is outside, and we reference in the inner scope. Seating chart is outside.
Yes.
And we reference it in the inner scope. And in the drawing, this is the same case.
But why can't the inner scope reference the outer scope?
The inner scope references the outer scope, right? But the outer scope cannot reference the inner scope. Inner scope references outer scope, but yeah.
But okay, but here const row equals seating chart I. If we put it outside and if we put it in the outer scope, why can't it reference the const seating chart that the array that is above, because it's in the same scope?
Because the eye is not outside.
Okay, is that the main thing?
That's that combined with that const is not allowed to be refined. Even if we were able to define const outside, like we can say, okay, let's just say we give it a starting value of seating chart 0, right? And then we try to override it here. That is not possible because it's const.
Okay,
Make
so
sense?
if we would put const seating chart I outside, then the I would be, then it would be like, where is the I?
Yeah, it says I have not defined.
Got it. That was the thing, because I was like, seating chart is it's outside as well, but the I, that makes a difference. Yes.
Yeah. And now the second thing is the const, right? But because even if we put 0 here and try to reassign it, that doesn't work with a const. But
Yes.
that would work with a let.
Yes.
And that is the full answer to your question. So basically, can we put it outside? Not with a const, and not if we use I. If we use let and we just give it any arbitrary starting value, sure, then you can reassign stuff. However, this is bad practice because in 99% of cases, you wouldn't want to do it this way because this is super confusing. Like, what if this row thing is used in some way in this for loop, and we change it from the outside or something, right? Then the program gets super complicated. That's why ideally you want to define every variable as close to where it's used, and then ideally only keep it as long as you use it, and then get rid of it, right? Because otherwise our brain has to hold so many things. Like, programs can get very big, and you want to minimize the amount of things that your brain holds in memory.
Got it. Yeah, that's great to know. And if we would put a let row seating chart I outside, it wouldn't be possible as well because the I is still undefined. Okay, got it.
Yes, exactly. You've got it.
Okay, the I was the was the point that was missing for me. Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. I think then we're done here, right?
Let me check the. Yeah, nested loops was the last thing today.
Amazing. Then thanks everyone for watching. I know we had about 2 viewers today and 1 is still left. I hope you learned something if you're watching. If anyone watches the replay, I hope you learned something too. This is very great. If you just started out your coding journey, you're going to learn so much. We're trying to clarify anything. Feel free to leave any questions in comments anywhere on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter. Leave it in the live chat.
I
We're going to
have
answer
a
them
short
live too.
question still.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the main issues I had today that were like keeping me from passing the coding exercises directly was like the syntax of like semicolons and like and what kind of brackets in what use case, and like sometimes you use a semicolon inside of a bracket, sometimes not, sometimes outside, sometimes not, and like is it useful to make oneself like a collection of formulas to overview, or would you say that I should just keep on with the exercises and then reference look for, like, manually always look for the missing parts inside of the course? Do you think that's enough, or does it make sense to create a separate a dedicated collection of formulas?
So 3 different answers that all interact with each other. So the first one is, as with many of these questions that we had so far, in the real world, there's a lot of stuff that is being taken care of for you. So, for example, stuff like semicolons, right? I can delete them, but Code Sandbox, and you can set that up in your editor too, but Code Sandbox, which is what we're viewing here for our live coding in these live streams, has something built in called prettier. prettier just because it makes your code prettier. And prettier is something that almost every project in the real world will have. And what it does is it has conventions how the code should look. And the reason why you use prettier is so that everyone in the team writes code in the same style. So it's not like, hey, Jerry likes this code, likes to, have his code look this way. And then Anne likes her code to look this way. And then, you can see the differences. Like, that's not good. In the code base, you want to have unity. You want to have the code look the same no matter who wrote it. And that's why you use tools like prettier that automatically format your code for you. So right now I've deleted both of the semicolons here. And as you can see here, the file is currently not saved. I'm going to save the file now and watch what happens. Boom. Both of the semicolons appear. And that is because prettier basically makes sure that this file conforms to a certain convention. So the first answer is many of these things are going to be automatically handled for you by the tools that make sure that everyone writes code in the same way. And another tool, in addition to prettier, would be, for example, Copilot, because Copilot will just complete a lot of these things for you, so you don't have to worry about memorizing them, right? Then the second part of the answer is you can rely on the real world to teach you a lot about a lot of these things. So, for example, even though I'm a quite experienced developer, I almost always look up for loops just because in the real world I almost never use them. I still remember, okay, there's this I thing and you do I++ and stuff, but I just look it up and there's no shame in looking things up. Like the main thing, as always, is you need to know that it exists. And when you encounter it, you want to be able to understand it. But you don't necessarily need to be able to recall everything from memory. Instead, it's fine if you just let the real world teach you which things are useful to have in memory and which things are useful to just know the existence of, and then look them up as you go. And the third answer is that I personally, when I started out coding, I created a formula for myself. And the main usefulness of it was just the learning aspect of it. So if you collect your own notes and you write it again, right? Repetition drills stuff into our brain, so you're more likely to remember it. And also, maybe it's easier for you to look up things that you've already come across, but you might not even know because you only came across it once in a course, only for a short time. You might not know the exact words. You might not know what you would even Google for. Like, then you only have that feeling something exists, but you wouldn't even know what to put into Google to find the correct syntax. So, writing your own code formula as someone who's very new to code can have the value that it lets you look up things more quickly and that it also helps you to remember things.
Got it. Okay, trade-offs and but yeah. Okay, interesting. And the follow-up question to that would be with the tools like Prettier, what I noticed while using Vim is that if the autofill is already creating like the open quote and the closed quote, and I'm writing inside of it, but then I want to add something behind the closed quote, I have to go into normal mode, move there by cursor with HJKL, or in this case with L most of the time, and then go back into insert mode. And this is a bit annoying if instead I could just type out everything, so I don't have to always skip like the things that are auto-filled. I mean, you're not a Vim user, but maybe you know how people who are using Vim are going about autofill and these prettier tools. Any thoughts on that, or should I better just look into how they're doing it?
So what I would advise you here is that you go to VI Stack Exchange. So just put that into Google, VI Stack Exchange. There's something called Stack Overflow, which is basically the main site that everyone goes to for help before ChatGPT existed, but it's still super useful. And the VI Stack Exchange, so Stack Exchange is the parent company. Stack Overflow happens to be the general thing for programming, but there are Stack Exchanges for learning Chinese, there are Stack Exchanges for playing Dungeons and Dragons, and there are Stack Exchanges dedicated to VI and Loom. And if you ask your question here, you will certainly get someone who will be able to perfectly answer it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and final question is if the minimap in the editor is useful or not, because I watched how's it called, Primage on YouTube, the coder, and he said that nobody uses it, that it's just a waste of that it's just occupying your field of vision with useless information. How is your experience on that?
I would say be your own judge. Keep it on for a little longer. And if you end up never using, so I would keep it, I mean, if it's disturbing you right now, turn it off, but definitely turn it on once you start building your own apps, or not even necessarily your own apps, but once you get into the part where you're building an app and where you're doing exercises about that building in the course. And then just judge for yourself, how useful is it to you, right? Like if someone tells you, hey, Vim sucks, but you're like, I love Vim, like why listen to them? So I would just see for yourself if it's useful to you. I personally keep it on because it doesn't distract me, and there is the occasional time where it helps me navigate code. But I know, as you said, plenty of people who are like, no, if I want to find something in code, I just press Command F and find what I'm looking for. So yeah, basically be your own judge and just see for yourself.
Got it. Okay, so I thought maybe there are some use cases that are not very obvious, so that I can discover them by myself. But
actually, I just noticed I have it turned off even, so I don't even use it.
Okay.
But I like my memory still has it in it, so I think I've been using it for years and will probably turn it off a year ago. So
I remember seeing you use it, but
right now it's deactivated in my editor. I don't know, but as you can see, it's not important necessarily to even notice, and know by head what I have it turned on off. So yeah, just see for yourself. If you like it, keep it. If you don't like it, just turn it off.
Awesome. Okay, that's it. I had these questions written down. I didn't want to forget asking them.
Yes, that's what we're here for. Sweet. So this has been a long one, the longest stream yet. I hope you learned something. I think we went through great topics today. It was super fun. Thank you everyone who's watching. Follow TEDxDev on Twitter. Keep an eye out for Leon Anderson. You'll be around in the near future soon. Thank you, Leon, for being here. Thank you everyone for watching. Keep coming back tomorrow. Coding is a habit. That's what 100 Days of Code is about, to build up your own coding habit so that you get better every day at coding, and eventually you'll be able to create something great that people will pay you for, and you'll be able to exchange things, and you'll be able to create win-win situations with a high impact on humanity. So yeah, this has been the Code Call with
Leon Anderson and my mentor
Alice Mill from 10xDev. See you guys soon.
Bye-bye.